A comparison of the English tort law to Islamic and Chinese. Introduction. A tort law is a collection of rights that are applied in court proceedings that are utilized to provide relief to people who have suffered from the wrongdoings of others. Notably, the interpretation of the law differs from one country to another. The plaintiff should explain how the actions of the other party were not appropriate, and necessary pieces of evidence should be provided to support the claims of an injury or a material loss. The English and the Islamic tort laws. The English law of torts is focused on the differentiation of criminal acts and civil wrongs, whereas the Islamic one is concentrated on actions that are allowed and those that are prohibited. The utilization of the concept of causation is quite similar. The English law system is focused on the identification of a relationship between the negligence of one person and the losses of a plaintiff, while the Islamic law system tries to determine the connection between the actions of an individual and the damage that has been caused. Employers are responsible for unlawful acts of their employees most of the time if they are executing orders or following instructions according to both English and Islamic laws. A control test is required to determine the level of responsibility, and several core factors such as the behavior of the workforce should be taken into account. Workers may not be regarded as responsible for the damage that has been done because they are trustees and perform orders on an authority according to Islamic law. English tort law suggests that monetary compensation is required, but self-help may be utilized as a form of punishment in some situations. According to Islamic law, blood money is used as compensation if the actions of an individual have led to death or injury. The English and the Chinese tort laws. Assumptions of liability are quite similar in both the English and the Chinese tort laws. Money is utilized as a primary form of compensation for torturous actions. According to the Chinese tort law, the value of the property that has been damaged is evaluated depending on the period of an incident. All medical expenses should be compensated if the plaintiff suffered an injury as a result of a wrongdoing. According to both English and Chinese laws, a tortfeasor should halt activity if it is viewed as a significant threat to the health and well-being of another system, and the defendant is responsible for reputation restoration if it is necessary. The law of tort in China supplements positions of intellectual property legislation, and all of the standards and guidelines should be followed. The damage related to intellectual rights in both English and Chinese laws must be based on appropriate legislation for an individual to be liable. Every single person who has supported or participated in a breach is viewed as legally responsible for such actions. Joint liability is utilized when acts that have led to the tort cannot be divided. Hence, a legal test may be required to determine the level of responsibility, and an individual approach to each case may be necessary. Conclusion. It can be said that a similarity between such concepts as causation and liability in English, Islamic, and Chinese tort law is quite significant. A difference in punishment in respective countries is a critical aspect that needs to be highlighted as well. In this paper, it has been identified that one of the reasons Chinese law of torts resembles one of England is because of a similarity between law systems.